Hello and welcome to the Geeks Review. I'm Royce.
I'm Jacob.
It's October, which means Halloween is quickly approaching.
Spooky month.
Yes, like it or not, it's the only thing preventing Christmas decorations from showing up in the shops in September.
Well, let's not get out ahead of ourselves. I've still seen a few.
Oh god, yeah, going to Bunnings, eh? Oh, that's bad. But anyway, over the next few weeks we're going to be talking about a few spooky movies. Starting off first with a recent release, and it's 1992 original, Candyman. The first one starring Tony Todd, who is an actor with over 200 credits to his name, probably best known for this hook-handed slasher role.
Yes, and I want to say, incredibly handsome man at that.
Incredibly so.
I love the original Candyman. Haven't seen the sequel yet myself, had a chance to, but I adore the first one. But I will say it's difficult to be scared from spending the whole time salivating over Tony Todd.
Yeah, he's there's a bit of a body horror there, but even that doesn't really get in the way.
Oh, it doesn't stop me.
He's just got this incredible voice.
It's suitable that he's covered in bees because he does have a voice like honey.
Yes. Good one. And there's even portions where they fill his mouth with bees. It's like trying to stop him talk. What are they doing? What are they thinking?
Well, obviously his curse wasn't what he chose to have. So
Yes.
I'd wager that curse would work against him too.
So the plot of this film, it's the early 90s in Chicago. And this lady is, she's researching, what's the word? Urban legends, yeah. One of which is the Candyman, which is this African-American man with a hook for a hand who haunts you if you say his name 5 times into a mirror.
Classic trope.
Not 3 times, as I was mistakenly.
No, you're thinking of Bloody Mary.
Yeah, Candyman requires a bit more effort.
It does. It's worth it. It's worth it though.
Yes. So he was a freeborn black man in the late 1800s who was cursed after he was killed in a rather not very nice way.
He was basically lynched.
Pretty much.
Nothing.
Yeah. And he, curses people who say his name. And it's been a while since I've seen the first one. You've seen it much more recently.
Yes.
So, can you tell me if it's people getting their comeuppance who do decide to bring him into this world?
Not really. It's kind of the curse itself doesn't pick and choose. You say his name, he comes and kills you. It's as simple as that. Obviously, there's the underlying themes of racial tension, discrimination, bigotry, and all that, and the fact that he was basically lynched for a crime he didn't commit back in the day. But, like I said, the curse itself is impartial. You say his name, he comes for you. But the reason he haunts Helen, the titular male protagonist of the film, is because she tries to disprove him. She tries to disprove his existence. And because of that, he has to come back and haunt her properly to make people believe again. Because if people don't believe, he has no power. And she does this by the police, incompetent as always, thinking they caught the Candyman, who was just a copycat killer. Of course, because of Helen's intervention. But of course, turns out, no, Candyman's very real. And essentially, spoilers if you haven't seen it, obviously, but the movie does end with Helen becoming a kind of Candyman-esque entity herself because she gets burned alive, basically. It's not a good time for anybody involved.
No, unfortunately not. It's interesting, the setup with the movie, how it does lean so heavy into him being an urban legend that it's not until about the halfway point of the movie that he finally does show up.
Yeah, exactly.
Properly, you know.
The build-up of tension is quite effective, which I like.
Yeah, and you're left thinking for a good portion of this movie before he does show up that it's all just,
Maybe it is just an urban legend, maybe it doesn't really exist. Maybe this is all just actually a thriller, not a horror, but no, then he shows up covered in bees, being all like, ooh, I'm spooky.
Yeah.
But obviously like Tony Todd, so much more attractive than that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He's got this lovely, deep, resonant voice, just the way he calls out her name and just,
Be my victim. I am the writing on the wall, the whisper in the classroom. Without these things, I am nothing. So now I must shed innocent blood.
Kind of what you wanted me to be honest.
I heard that the actress who played Helen was actually really hypnotised for scenes where she's under Candyman's spell. You know, makes you...
I mean, wouldn't you be?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't even just Tony Todd's voice. I didn't even just rely on that. I actually got hypnotist to hypnotise her, which kind of makes you think, well, she's an actress. You know, surely she should be able to...
Yeah, she should act hypnotised. But I guess with authenticity.
Yes. Yeah. So, he's a very compelling figure, is Candyman. You know, like I said, he's got a bit of body horror to him, but it doesn't really dissuade from the aura.
Exactly. And the movie, outside of Candyman himself, can fall flat a bit at times. It can drag on a bit, especially when Helen's, the main character's husband, Trevor, shows up on screen, just slowing the movie to a halt by being boring and existing.
Yeah.
Because he is a teacher, lecturer at the same college that Helen works at, and he is got a little piece on the side with one of his students, which plays a role in Helen's eventual descent into losing it. Because what Candyman does is he basically torments Helen throughout his appearances by making people think that she's crazy, she's a killer, and all this. So it's a lot of psychological manipulation involved as well.
Yeah, it's kind of a twisted tale how there is almost a romantic aspect to it, like sort of Phantom of the Opera. I mean, the music is very...
The whole thing almost feels like Candyman is seducing Helen in a more horror-esque way, to the point where, in the end, he tricks her into basically becoming burnt on this pyre that they were trying to do to destroy Candyman, because Candyman stole the baby, Helen wanted to save the baby, but then they thought that Helen was the one who kidnapped the baby.
Yeah.
But in the end, because of that, she takes on the same curse that Candyman has. So they're basically together in the afterlife.
Yeah.
Haunting together. And you see this when Trevor, the completely milquetoast husband, was crying because, my wife that I cheated on and didn't really love properly is dead, and said her name 5 times in the mirror, to which she then appears behind him looking like a burn victim. Appropriate, seeing that she was burnt on a pyre. So if you're not a fan of burnings or fire, I wouldn't recommend Candyman.
Oh. Or bees, lots of bees.
Or bees, lots of bees. If you don't like bees, maybe stay away.
This film was obviously successful enough to spawn 2 sequels in the 90s, and the recent movie is actually a sequel to the original. They did a Halloween, where they basically disregarded everything that came after the first and said, no, this is a direct one. So we're just going to sort of jump between the two now.
Yes, I am looking forward to the sequel too.
It's really good.
I've got no surprise at all.
It's Jordan Peele of Key and Peele.
That makes sense.
Recent director of Get Out and Us. He's actually the producer on this. The director is a young woman called Nia DaCosta. She directed a film last year or a few years ago called Little Woods, which had Tessa Thompson and Lily James as sisters living on the Canadian-American border who are sort of, left behind by their country and have to flee across the border to get, valuable medical aid.
Right.
It's crazy. Like, she was only in her late 20s when she wrote and directed it, and
blimey, good on her.
Yeah, it sort of makes me feel a bit like, oh, what am I doing? Yeah. And she's directing an MCU movie now, so
there you go, very successful. Yeah, we all live life at our own pace.
Yes, very much so. Something to remember. But yes, the new Candyman takes an interesting approach where Tony Todd is in the film, but he shows up sparingly. It sort of builds upon the mythos, I guess, of the Candyman, that there's always this kind of injustice and violence that bred Candyman going on, and more exist within this world.
Well, makes sense. The whole reason Candyman exists is because of racial intolerance and bigotry, so nice of me to say it doesn't exist anymore. We all know it does. It's still very much a prevalent issue in our society, so it's the kind of theme that just keeps popping up.
Yeah. It's quite overt as it is in Jordan Peele's other works. He wrote this, he produced it. Not saying it's definitely not a bad thing, it's a good thing. And it's a lot more, I guess, clearer. And there's a lot of symbolism, I guess, in regards to when the film opens, the opening titles are all mirrored. And I'm thinking, is there something wrong with the file I'm watching? No, it turns out it's thematically resonant. So if you do start to watch this movie in the cinemas or on streaming, and the opening title cards are all flipped, totally normal. Stick with it. Don't go, oh no, it's wrong. So it does kind of deal a bit with like gentrification. Like, I mean, it's set in the present day, pre COVID, so things are relatively happy, although it still trumps America. It's still kind of racially hostile and, you know, kind of just antagonistic.
Still not a good time. But
the police aren't really like a prevalent threat. Like, they sort of show up at key points, but they're not always like looming. And the main character's played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. I believe that's his name. He recently appeared in Aquaman, playing Black Manta. And he was in the Watchmen series. He was really good in that. He plays this guy who is has a connection to the first film. If you sort of think about characters who were involved in that first film, who he could possibly be.
Right.
That's fun. He's an artist who's, you know, living in a high-rise, you know, in Chicago, and he's kind of drawing upon black experiences and, you know, black suffering to kind of create his art. And, you know, his promoter at the gallery is kind of demanding something more visceral, something more, you know, bloody and gritty and real, and he does something, and you kind of see how people react to it when they're shown his art. It's this piece where it's hidden behind like a mirrored cabinet, so you see just these mirrors on the wall, and you have to open it up, and it reveals a bunch of artwork behind it. And you sort of see there's this girl who just looks at it and just takes a selfie in it, you know, just in the mirror.
We live in a society, as they say.
Well, there's that. But there's also this art critic. She's a white woman, and she sort of looks at it and goes like, "You people, you know, draw upon the experiences of the ghetto and exploit it." And he's like, "You people? What?" And she's like, "Artists." He's like, "Right, okay." And it's very sort of condescending on her part for her to go like, "Oh, you people, you're just pulling upon..."
Yeah, sounds like an art critic, all right.
Yeah. Much like the first film, the Candyman himself kind of makes a few sparing appearances and doesn't properly show up until the latter half of the movie. The gore doesn't kick in until about the 35-minute mark.
So it's got a decent build-up to everything then.
Yeah, and it's a very quick movie. Like, it's barely 90 minutes long.
Oh, blimey, that is a short one.
It's a really great build-up, and when the gore happens, it's like, wow, okay, that's spectacularly gory. I mean, you got a killer with a hook for a hand who slices people open from their groin to their gullet, you know, as he says in the first film. But then it sort of pulls back a bit, and a lot of violence in the killing is either off-screen or implied, where a killing happens in a bathroom and you just see the blood splatters under the cubicle doors, and, you know, obviously it's going to be a gory film. A lot of it's body horror as well.
Well, that's pretty prevalent in the Candyman. It's very much a body horror.
The
horror in Candyman obviously is body horror.
Yeah.
The themes are generally, obviously, racial tension, gentrification, all that stuff. Important stuff to be taught, which it does make sense that Peele's the one producing and writing the movie this week, because his last few works, he's really shown he's very good at making people uncomfortable facing certain truths. Yeah. Which I think is important.
Of course it is, you know.
No matter how much things improve, it's important to remember what happened. You can't forget. You should always try to improve things, but you can't forget the past. You can't just say, well, things are better now, so we can stop trying. You can't. You can never stop trying until things are good.
Especially when this was made. You know, it was quite hostile.
Things were very tense.
And it was before things really blew up last year, yeah. But it does tie into that very much. And, of course, there's negative reviews online who say this movie's terrible, and it's just, you know, a bunch of sad sacks who go, "Oh, they said police are bad. 1 star."
Yeah, it sounds about funny, right?
But it's really bloody good, and I say it even, you know, it's not his work, it's Nia DaCosta's, but it works in a trilogy with Get Out and Us really well. If you have a fear of like little holes next to that, you know, that
tryptophobia,
right. Don't watch this. There's a lot of that in Skin.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it really builds upon that body horror, and like I said, it builds upon the mythology of the Candyman figure, you know, because he's kind of a figure as opposed to like the one man.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it felt like it sort of was missing a few scenes towards the end. Like it sort of just jumped to this conclusion.
Things about progress got left on the cutting room floor, as always happens with movies.
Unfortunately so.
Who knows, we might get a director's cut.
That would be really cool.
Which would be cool. I'm always happy to see more things in movies I like. I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah. Based upon a previous film, I think there's definitely... If she wrote it and he wrote it, you know, I'd say there's connecting material, or maybe I missed something, but
Well,
it just
what
sort
you've
of
told
leapt.
me, they make a good team. So I'm looking forward to seeing what their work is together by watching this.
Yeah. Oh, there's just so many cool scenes, cool imagery in it as well, because, I mean, obviously now, special effects, everything looks fantastic, so you don't need to go, oh, the special effects look fantastic. It's a given. Yeah, there's a part that's genuinely quite upsetting. Like, just the implication of it, where a case of mistaken identity leads to another killing of an African-American man and sort of creates this further mythos, and it's just quite, genuinely upsetting. in a good way. Like, I mean, that sounds horrible to say, but like,
I think you mean as in that's what the movie's trying to get across.
Yeah.
In which case the movie has done its job spectacularly.
Exactly that, yeah.
Right.
Mm.
You're not saying that it's good that happens.
No.
No.
No, it's good as a storytelling thing that's what they wanted to achieve, and they succeeded in achieving that.
A very effective moment that put across the thing the vibe they were trying to portray.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to even more now because it sounds like it's a bloody well shot film.
Yes, very much so. The movie actually does open with the Candyman song from Willy Wonka.
Oh, dear Lord.
Sort of delivered in I'm not too sure if it was the audio from the original movie, shortened and chopped and changed, but it was pretty haunting.
I mean, when you look back at Willy Wonka, the whole thing is in itself pretty damn haunting.
Yeah. Let's talk about Willy Wonka.
Oh, no, there's a crossover I'd love to see. Willy Wonka versus the Candyman. Now, that would be a movie. I just want to see Gene Wilder try and take down Tony Todd. Yeah. And Tony Todd just outspinning him at every turn.
Actually, yeah, that's one thing I want to say finally about the new Candyman, is that as I was watching it, I'm thinking this is going to be... Okay, it does explicitly mention the events from the first film. It does a lot of stuff with shadow puppetry.
Right.
Which is sort of explains like the sort of weird cutout, graphics they have for the title of this film, as you see on the poster. And it does like a retelling of the first film, which is really cool to see. And I spent the whole film sort of thinking, what are they going to do? Are they going to change it? And no, it all fits together, but it builds upon it, like I said, and it really just does new stuff. It doesn't do the same thing all over again.
So it does what a sequel should do.
Yeah.
Build on it while doing its own thing. Excellent.
Yeah. Tiona Paris, who was recently in WandaVision, played Monica Rambeau. She's in this as well as Anthony's wife or girlfriend, one of the two. And she herself is haunted. Oh, God, it's horrible, horrible scenes. Fantastic, storytelling horror, yes. But just it's kind of like, oh, wow, that's a lot for that character to go through and a lot to kind of process as an audience member.
Yeah, just it's a bit rough.
Which is, like I said, why the finale of the movie sort of felt so kind of rushed in a way. But yeah, it is good.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to watching that. If you haven't seen the original, I'd highly recommend you giving it a look. It's an absolute classic for a reason.
I don't think it's available on anything at the moment, though. Like, I don't think it's on any streaming services.
Oh, track down a DVD or torrent it.
We do not condone that.
Yeah, bugger off, we don't.
No, why not?
Look, if you can't get access to it, how else are you going to watch it?
We could watch it on YouTube for $4.
Oh, that's right. YouTube does movie rentals now, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, they're pretty good, to be honest. I remember last year I watched The King and I on YouTube. But that was a film that was shot in such, like, widescreen that, they had to sort of cut it down to 16:9. Which is...
kind of takes a bit of the magic out of it.
It reminds me, actually, have you ever seen Seinfeld?
The show?
The show, yeah. Yeah. Netflix has recently acquired the rights to show it.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it's a big worldwide thing how Jerry worked with Netflix and, they've got all the episodes, and Stan had it recently, which is where I watched it.
Right.
And Netflix have cut the tops and the bottom of the picture off to make it 16:9.
That's weird.
So, yeah, there's a post that's going around on Twitter that says, the titular pothole of the pothole episode isn't in view anymore. George is like, look at this, and it's like black bars cutting off what he's talking about.
That's fantastic, that is. Can you even see Kramer's head anymore then?
No. I doubt it. Yeah, how'd they do that?
Yeah, you can't just be cutting things up like that.
No.
Come on, you'll just shrink the picture a bit if you're going to do that.
Why bother at all? I mean, everyone's sort of lost their minds when Zack Snyder did 4x3 Justice League, which was just, directed whatever. That was nonsense. It's presented as the director originally intended. No, it's not.
Yeah, and who cares? Just Zack Snyder's a hack.
Oh. Oh no, the YouTube people will be after you.
Yeah, the first time. I can take him.
Well, it means engagement on the video.
There you go, so.
Yeah. Zack Snyder. I can't talk today. Yeah, don't do it. Don't cut up your movies and... Anyway, Candyman. The original and the original sequels are available to watch on YouTube for a fee. It's just a rental, and the original one, I think, is on streaming at the moment, and similarly, rent it for a bit. I'm Royce.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.